So, Tucker Carlson decided to come and liberate Canada.
Thank you for your call. You have reached the media line. For all urgent requests, please send your request by email. Merci pour votre appel. Vous avez atteint la ligne médiatique. Merci beaucoup.
Yes, hi. I couldn't understand the French part, but it's Tucker Carlson calling from the United States. And I'd be grateful if you pass a message on to the Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau. We are coming to liberate Canada. We are coming to liberate Canada. And we'll be there soon. Merci.
And predictably, liberals all across the nation are having a complete meltdown.
But if we show up and announce we're here to liberate Canada, what do you think will happen?
Well, their hair is going to start on fire and they're going to freak out.
Oh, you know, go to Canadian Tire for an hour. Justin, can you watch my kids? I don't think you're going to do that. But you hate him your country. It's totally cool. Don't worry. He's a good sport. But he will collapse under the weight of his own ludicrousness and go back to Cuba or do whatever he does.
Oh, and it gets even better. So he did 2 events, and one of them had Jordan Peterson tag along as well.
I thought I was going to make it through this, but I'm not. It hurts.
Somebody told me last night that his base, I was asked, we had this wonderful dinner last night with 2 of the most famous people in Canada, probably the 2 most famous people, Lord Black and my friend Dr. Jordan Peterson, and I asked, like, is there anyone in the country who supports this guy? He's so, I mean, I know him only, I've never met him, I only know him through television. I know his cousin Gavin Newsom pretty well, but I don't know him. Is there anyone who takes him seriously? And everyone in the room said, oh, yeah, young people, particularly young women, take him very seriously. They love him. And I thought, there's really only one way to combat that, and that's by pointing out what an absurd poser this guy is. He's like a ridiculous figure. Like, you should dislike and resist Justin Trudeau and his government to the maximum extent of your ability. But before you do that, you should just laugh at him until you can't breathe. Seriously. The guy's like, he's showing up for a costume party when no one else is. There's no costume party, and there's Justin Trudeau. Like, speaking as some sort of moral voice. Weird little cross-dresser. So anyway, that's my first piece of advice. My second piece of advice, once you've done that, which is very effective, and I know it's not the Canadian way because it's such a polite society that everyone feels morally bound to take everyone else's point of view very seriously and sort of nod gravely and pretend to consider their perspective. But there are some perspectives that aren't in fact perspectives, they're attacks on you. And that's the main thing that I want to say in the short time allotted today, is that you should recognize what is happening to you. This is not a political debate to which you've been invited to participate. This is a destruction of you and your culture and your beliefs and your children and your future as a country. It doesn't matter who's in the Prime Minister's office. Your rights remain the same because you were born with them, because you are not a slave, you're a human being, and you have inherent dignity because God made you. That's just a fact. And if they're taking those rights away piecemeal and doing so in the name of public safety, even as they make the public sphere much more dangerous, which they have, in case you haven't noticed, Canada has a lot more violent crime now than it did 20 years ago. Have you noticed? Of course you have. You live here. And if they're telling you you can't defend yourself against that crime, we're going to disarm you, you can't protect your life or your family, and you're like, oh yeah, it's for the public safety, it's just not a big deal. These are weapons of war. No, they're weapons of self-defense, which you need and deserve as a free person, not a slave. And then they're telling you you can't complain about it. And then they're subsidizing the media to the point where all of your big media outlets, which are disgusting, are state media because they're taking state cash. Do you watch CBC? I do, occasionally. I can turn in any hour of the day and I will learn that I am racist for driving an SUV and not being trans. That's the whole schedule of CBC programming. But interpret that. That's not woke. Oh, it's woke. I hate the woke crap. It doesn't mean anything. They hate you. That's what they're saying. They're saying that you are bad. That's exactly what they're saying. Don't lie to yourselves. That's all I'm saying. And we are very delusional in the United States because we're so distracted by stuff and electronic devices and the promise of next-day delivery from Amazon of brightly colored plastic crap made in China that we tend to be slow to figure out what's going on. But Canada has a different restraint, which is a cultural one. It's an specific Anglo-cultural one, which is just like, I don't want to deal with that. That's too uncomfortable. But in your heart, anyway, even if you voice it to no one but yourself, know what the message is. And the message is, you are bad. I mean, I'm going to say the most controversial thing ever. I watched when Montreal was cleansed of its Anglo legacy. And I'm not anti-French, just for the record, at all. But I am Anglo, and I had friends in Montreal. And in the span of a generation, like, that's all gone. They were forced out. And they're like, okay, I guess we'll go to Ontario. What? My grandfather built this city. I'm not going anywhere. How about that? That never occurred to anyone. Because no one could say out loud what was actually happening. This was a series of acts of hostility aimed at you because of things that you didn't choose, like how you were born. And once you will keep allowing that, you have no future, okay?
The Freedom Convoy. Whoa. Working class people, in their implicit wisdom, have decided that they're not the problem that faces the planet, but the solution. And the truckers knew that, and they served in that function. As even Trudeau admitted not so long prior to his unforgivable, traitorous, and now deemed criminal activities, which should be treated as such. More power to the truckers. I think they handled that demonstration impeccably. They timed it brilliantly. They left at the right time. They did nothing but good. And they were treated like Russian collaborators and MAGA scum, and sometimes both at the same time, because that's exactly how demented Canada is.
I so fervently agree with what Jordan just said, and I was mesmerized by that whole thing, and I know some of the people involved. I do think, though, there's probably too much emphasis, relatively speaking, on the Prime Minister and not enough on Chrystia Freeland. It proves the meritocracy is fake. Some it's mentally deficient fascists can have power over you. But watching David Menzies get arrested recently for trying to ask her a question, I mean, I really feel like people need to be very direct. No, this person has no moral authority over me at all. She is not qualified to even speak to me.
Look, son, it's one of nature's most beautiful sights, the convoy.